Hey, my friends, Rachel Adams-Lee here, and we are talking about something today that is a really big deal. It is a conversation that needs to happen. It's a conversation that makes people really uncomfortable, and yet we can't see any change. We can't make an impact. We can't grow if we don't have these important, powerful conversations. So I am bringing you today three powerful women of color in real estate that are going to be sharing their perspective and their beliefs and their hearts for what's going on right now in our world. And my hope from this is that we can think a little bit differently, know how to support the people around us, and grow together. So first off, if you're taking the time to watch this, I just want to thank you so much for coming with an open mind and an open heart. And I really do believe that together we can make a difference. Take a look. Thank you so much. Hello, ladies. I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you.
So for those of you watching on social media, we wanted to welcome you and thank you for your time today and just for approaching this conversation with an open mind and an open heart. These are challenging times that we are living in. I mean, I think what we're experiencing right now, it's been going on for a long time. And I think that truly I didn't know how serious it was and how big of an issue it was until it's now been brought, to our attention. And the main thing, the reason I wanted to, have this conversation and elevate these women and have them share with all of you is because, frankly, I have so many friends that don't know what to say, so they're not saying anything at all. And I think, that's like the worst thing that we can do is to not say anything or not do anything. So I am thankful that you're here. I'm thankful that everyone is just open to this conversation. And with that being said, I wanted to introduce you to these three powerful, beautiful women that we have with us today. We have Annette, and it's her birthday today. Happy birthday. We have Miss Shandi, and we have Chase. So all of these women are in real estate, you guys. So this is super exciting. So we have three powerful women in real estate. They are movers, they are shakers, they make things happen, and they have a voice. And so, when we did a prep call, I was like, do we have set questions? Like, how do we do this? Because I'm used to like regular, the regular interview. And we ultimately realized that this just needs to be a conversation. And so we were kind of trying to come up with the title for this. And ultimately we said, let's have this be a conversation about change, because that's what we need to have happen is there needs to be change. And, the main reason I wanted to do this is I feel like a lot of people they're interested right now and they're doing hashtags and all the thing, but I don't want this just to be a hashtag. I don't want this to be something that we talk about right now because it's trendy and then we go back to the way things were, because that's not going to make an actual impact. So that's really why I wanted to do this. And, I made a stance, for how I feel with everything. I lost some followers. I got some really yucky messages from people. And in the beginning, it was really upsetting. And I tried to talk to them. And then I realized as you evolve as a person and as things change, not everybody aligns with you anymore. And one of my friends said it really well. She said, this is messy. It was Shandi. We were talking. She's like, these are messy times. Like and she said, you're not going to have the same friends going in that you had going out. And so I would just love just to start this off. If you each could just introduce yourself and share a little bit about your story. You all have very different perspectives on everything, and yet they're similar. So Annette, it's your birthday, girlfriend, and we are so thankful you're here. Why don't you, if you're open to it, just start by sharing a little bit about yourself, kind of your mindset around what's going on right now, and we'll just take this where it goes.
Hi, everyone. I just wanted to a little bit about myself. I'm 64 today, and I've been in situations. I've worked in several industries. I've done direct sales before. I've been in banking. I've been in retail sales, and I guess I'm the oldest here, so I've been in this the longest, and I know for sure that you can't change somebody's mind if they don't want to change their mind, if they don't want to change their behavior, if they are not interested in any kind of education, upliftment, change, if they're not interested in any of those things, then you just have to let it go. You just have to let it go. I'm going to say something. One of the things my parents and my grandparents always told me, and it was to do unto others as you would have them do unto you. It's so simple, and we say it all the time, but do we do it? Do we do it? Do we wake up in the morning and say, look, I'm going to be going into a job that has people that I know don't like me. They do not like me at all. They make my life miserable.
And you felt
you as a person, you have to then determine what you are going to do in that situation. It's not easy. It's not easy at all. So you have to say, okay, am I going to retaliate as like, or I'm going to, try to educate, I have to say that brown and black people are very, very forgiving. We are a forgiving set of people, most of us. And that is just ingrained from the training that we've had. So I know for me that it used to make me very angry. I used to go to work angry every single day. And I decided one day, I'm not going to do that anymore.
And you were angry.
And those are just the little things. It's just little incremental changes that you make within yourself that's going to help this whole situation. Go ahead, Rachel.
So when we talked earlier, you explained that you feel that you are like the angry black woman, and you said that you feel like you're that in all the jobs you've been in, and you talked about specifically, you shared something with us about cleaning your desk, and even
yes.
Can you share that experience? Because that just blew me away.
So I'm a very OCD person. I clean my desk every single day. I don't go to work and not clean my desk before I even use it. So I clean my desk, and it was a problem for people. It was like, who do you think you are? Why do you have to clean your desk every single day? And if somebody approaches my desk and they leave something on it, I would ask, do you need this? Because I always kept my desk really, really clean and really tidy, and it annoyed people. I couldn't understand why. There were a lot of things that I did that annoyed people. I didn't want to go bar hopping after work because I had a husband and I wanted to come home to my husband. And, I wasn't interested in going and drinking and having drinks with people. And it was a problem. That was a problem too. But, then I realized it wasn't anything that I was doing. Yeah. It was not my problem. It was their problem.
So when I look at you, I always think you're this like vibrant suit. You've only been so happy and such a light since I've met you. Explain the angry black woman thing, because I know when you talked about that, Shandi said that it resonated with her. Can you just share a little bit about that?
So if a white girl comes in the office and for whatever reason, someone says to her, well, the boss is going to have a meeting this afternoon at 2:00, and she, for whatever reason, had already decided that she was leaving at 1:00. Okay, she would go and tell them, look, I can't be at this meeting. You have to change the time. Da, 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 da. I would never even, that thought would never cross my head. As a black person, I was not going to even do that. Whatever personal arrangements I had, I would change that.
So you felt like you had to tread lightly?
Yes, all the time. All the time. You had to watch what you say, watch what you do, watch what you wear, watch everything. You just couldn't be yourself totally 100%.
Okay. Thank you. Shandi, so I have gotten to know you it feels like I've known you a lot longer than I actually have. And you are in real estate, you do acting and modeling. Can you just share a little bit about yourself and kind of your experience? You've been my go-to person before I post something on social media, because I've been so scared of like that I would hurt someone's feelings or offend. Like I want to say something, but I don't want to say it the wrong way. And so before I would post anything or respond even to a friend, I'd send it to Shandi and say, is this okay? Can I say this? And she's like, Rachel, the fact that you're asking, that's where this starts. So can you just share a little bit about what you've been going through? I know, you have a son and you're in the thick of it.
Yeah. So first of all, I commend you for even doing this and having the courage to have this open dialogue, because it's a rough time right now and we're having a hard time. And when I say we, meaning people of color, I mean, there's so much going on. And so we started talking about this from a business perspective of me being in real estate. But it really transitions into my whole life, being a Black woman, having a Black son, the conversations that we have to have. And so I'm not going to spend too much time talking about myself. What I really am hoping for in this is that we can have an open discussion, that people can ask questions, and then we can just try to see what we can do to affect change. So it's things like this that are going to make a difference. And so again, I commend you. I appreciate the text messages and the phone calls, and I'll say it again. I love your heart. I love that you take the time to say, hey, is this okay? And there's going to be things that aren't okay and things that are okay. You're going to get backlash. You're going to get support. You're going to get it across the board. But the fact that you're willing to get uncomfortable is what matters. And I think what's going to happen in order for change is that people are going to have to get uncomfortable. It's going to have to be things like this, and conversations and just being open. So
how do you feel about the fact when we say, like when white people say, well, I don't see color? Because I told you when everything happened with George Floyd and they were bringing up these other names, I thought, how have I not heard these other names before? Like, and I'm very quickly realizing the media shows you what they want to show you, right? And yet, the conversation you and I had was, I had said I had to actually look back and think, and I didn't know if this was a good or a bad thing. Who are my Black friends? Because I just have friends. I didn't think of them as like my Black friends and my white friends. I just thought of them as my friends. And then, people were saying you need to check on your Black friends. And I was like, okay. And I really had to think through that. Do you think that's a good thing or a bad thing? I mean, and because I feel like a little bit in this process, like, it's good if I see something, it's bad if I see something. I'm going to hurt someone's feelings. I'm not going to hurt someone's feelings. I had posted that I was going to do this talk, and I got a couple messages from Black women that said, where were you 3 years ago? Why the hell didn't you do this 3 years ago? And I just simply said, I'm so sorry. I didn't realize that I needed to. I didn't know. And that's just me speaking my truth, right? So what do you say to that, to the people who are just flat out confused?
I mean, I get it. I mean, the reason that you don't know about the other experiences because it's not your road. It hasn't been your experience. We as Black people, we know. I could name off all the names. I could go on and on forever about it. But you're not. I think the fact that it was videotaped and it was seen, you can't ignore it at this point. I think people have had a choice to be able to ignore things, and now you just can't. And so now it's like, yes, where were you 3 years ago? But it wasn't your experience. It wasn't your world. So now it's like, what are you going to do from this point forward? Do you know what I mean? So now there's no more excuses. Now it's like, because I think before, there was just some naivety to it. Like, I don't know what's happening. I don't know, whatever. You live in your bubble, and,
yeah.
The conversations that I'm having with my child, you're not having with yours, and so on and so forth. And so it's just time for change now. And I think it's because it's just been exposed and the Band-Aid it's been ripped off, and now we're seeing, just what's really happening out there. So,
and for those of you watching, I mean, this is for you as well as myself, and this is for everyone. So if you have questions, I have my phone to the left of this. So if you have any questions or you want to know how to say something or what not to say, please just type it in, and then I'll be able to ask the ladies these questions for you. All right, Miss Chase Sloan, welcome.
Hello, hello, hello.
Hello, you got your computer charger?
Yes, thank you guys. You know, gotta love Apple. But
I know. Okay, can you just introduce yourself, share a little bit about yourself with us, please?
Yeah, so I'm Chase Sloan. I'm a real estate agent here in Houston, Texas. I have the Chasey Real Estate Group, as you guys can see. And I'm glad to have the conversation. I think it's layered, and I think there's so many levels of it. What comes to mind is that, you know, as Shandi was saying, is that this has been going on. Literally, my On This Day says the same thing every year. My On This Day, maybe from a year ago, was talking about whoever that was at that time. And it's consistent year after year after year. Gosh, I got to pause 1 second because somebody's outside. But I'm going to come back to this. But you guys keep talking 1 second.
So, Rachel, I just wanted to say, with everything that's going on, there were 4 officers this morning that choked a young Black guy in Queens, New York. It's absolutely ridiculous. It was on film.
And that's one of the things.
And you just don't even see. It's like unfathomable. It's just like, you know, why?
Well, I think because when it doesn't apply to you, it's easy to dismiss it, right? And so what happens is, and I always said it would be a wonderful experiment to like switch pages. Like, Rachel, if you and I were to switch logins on Facebook and actually see what is it that you see and what is it that I see? Is it truly that you don't know, or is it a cutoff? Because my news feed is constantly talking about what's going on in our world. And the benefit of whether it's being white or whether it's being privileged is that you're not adapting into our spaces, right? Very rarely are you outside of maybe this Zoom call, are you the only white person in that room? Absolutely. Are you the only white person in this space, forced to navigate and adjust? You say, well, I've gotten inboxes from friends that aren't happy with what I'm saying. Imagine if that was your world. Totally. And you couldn't speak up about it because you weren't the majority, whether it's business conferences, whether it's your market center or office, whether it's the church that you go to. And in all of these times, you have to convince, that's the first thing, you have to convince the other person that there's a problem. Number 2, that they are responsible of maybe, whether it's directly or indirectly, they're responsible for being able to do something about it. And then, like you said, not coming off as that angry Black person, which is a type of silencing. Imagine if we related this to any other trauma. Imagine if this was a rape and someone was attempting to explain to you that someone has been raping them. And you said, just focus, they're not that bad. Not all people are bad, not this. And every time they try to bring up something, they're forced to silence. Well, I choose not to look at it that way. Maybe that person, we would raise arms. We would raise holy hell if we told somebody like, oh, well, maybe you were dressed inappropriately, or maybe we would completely, however, being Black, it's, well, what was your interaction with the cop? Maybe you should have listened. Maybe you should have presented it a different way. You know, were you angry? And that is a type of silencing. And I think people need to understand that. You know, when you try to push your opinion and not listen to the facts after not just years, right? It's not just 3 people. It's a long list that we couldn't even begin to name, and constantly having to hear people say, well, it's not that. You're overreacting. Why do we have to do this? The reason why people are uncomfortable with the amount of change that they're seeing in the media, why are they changing street signs? Why are they taking down statues? Why do we have to do this? Why do we have to do this? Imagine, because these are the microaggressions that Black people navigate on a lively basis. So great, you've been uncomfortable for 3 weeks.
Right. It's your everyday.
This is everybody on this calls and people's watching every day, so much so. And then they're forced to choose. Do I speak up on what I see, or do I have to provide for my family and keep face? Because at the end of the day, just like the Amy Cooper call, right? White women, whoever, they are in positions of influence. So they can drastically say, oh my gosh, a Black person is harm me, and the world reacts. They can say it in their boardrooms. They can say it when it comes to opportunities for advancement. And I believe all of these perspectives on there are on this call are valid. And yet, fast forward this, how does this impact upward mobility? We're in a company that talks about creating opportunity, which we define as wealth. Right. If you have people that subliminally, it's not like, I don't think anybody is out here like far left coming into work with a hood on their head. It doesn't happen like that. It's like, oh, she's been kind of angry lately. She's not a culture fit. Wow, she seems like, you know, I say all the time, it's easy to find Black talent when it comes to volunteering and opinions. But what happens when it comes to opportunities for ownership and investments? Do you find those same people? So it's multi-layered. And I don't mean to take up the call, but that's what I think, you know, is the range of emotions that you experience with anybody that, you know, is in your space, and also why you don't get the full truth. Because again, we're navigating your spaces. So we have to find a way to speak the truth without hurting your feelings. Because again, then you get labeled, well, Shandi's, you know, she's pretty angry, you know. But right. Nobody realizes that she had to go home and talk to her son. She had to go to work and navigate this space. She had to go look on the news. It's trauma. It's trauma navigating.
Yeah, and to piggyback on that, Chase, to piggyback on what you just said, I can say the same thing as a white woman can say, but it can be construed completely differently. So a white woman could say something and be upset. I could say something and be upset, but I'm angry. You know what I mean? I'm full of rage, and I'm just, you know, I don't know how to conduct myself. So as she was saying, and I think Annette was saying, you have to watch every step that you take. Every time I walk out the door, I'm a representation of my race, right? So I carry that on my back everywhere I go, and I perform in a predominantly white space. You know, I work in real estate. I'm in the sector of real estate that I'm in. I'm always the only Black person, the only one. And to go back to what you and I were talking about, then you have the side of being what they call the token Black girl, right? So when white women or white men see me, they're like, oh, well, she's okay. She's articulate. She speaks well. She dresses well, you know, and so in their mind, they're like, that's okay. She's okay.
It's acceptable.
Which is an insult to me and my entire race. It's a complete insult. It's a backwards compliment, and it comes at me all the time. But and to go back to
you can explain. Do you feel like you could? I mean, do you feel like you could even have that conversation of, you know, because you told me that, you know, when you walk, you know, you predominantly work in the luxury real estate space. And you said that you've always been kind of like the token Black girl. Have you ever been able to have a conversation about it, or you just kind of felt like you knew the place you needed to be at and you just went about your day?
No, I have, but you know, it has to be the right time in the right space. At the end of the day, as Chase was saying, this is how I make my living as well, right? So there's a way to navigate it, and I have to be careful the steps that I take. But I also, on the same token, wear that with pride. You know, I want to expose these people to people of color, because we're, you know what I mean? We're great. We're awesome. We're not out to get you. We're not here to harm you. We're just like you. And so being a representation of that is heavy sometimes, and sometimes I welcome it, but it is tiring. It's tiring to be that person all the time. I'm always the only person in a room. So I have to watch everything I do, everything I say, what I wear, you know, just how I move. So,
and it's so interesting for you to have to say, I'm not here to harm you. I'm not here to do all that. Like, why would that even need to be reference? You know, at no point, like Rachel, I'm pretty sure you've been invited to many rooms. I'm pretty sure you've never had to say, I'm not here to harm you. I'm not here to do anything. I really just, and this is that filtered truth. Like, hey, in a lot of spaces, I had a conversation with my OP. Mark Keller-Williams has maybe 850 market centers. We have probably about 3 to 5 Black OPs. That's less than 0.5%. When, again, you're talking about opportunities to create wealth. What does it really look like? And so to be able to have to filter this truth and just say, you know, I'm a top performer. I'm, you know, I represent not only myself, yet my brand well, right? Those are the things. But for whatever reason, Shandi still feels like she needs to say, I'm not here to harm you. I'm not here to take. Why is that? And so those are the embedded things, and that like maybe now you'll pay attention and you'll listen to, and it's like you'll catch these words of, again, navigating your comfortability, right? Everybody wants to stop talking about stuff because what? It's making whatever. I'm just going to say black and white because that's just the conversation. But whoever, is making them uncomfortable.
Yes,
why is that the case when it's one group of people being murdered? Why are we appeasing the violator? Why is the victim appeasing the violator?
We always have to come up with the answers. We're the ones that getting violated, but we have to come up with the answers. And then they decide if those answers suit them or not. This has been going on for hundreds of years. No, just I'm not going to go off on a tangent, but if you Google appropriate hair for work day, the only people that will come up are Black people. Inappropriate hair for work, it's all Black people. If you Google it right now, you will see there's very few white people. And the white people that are in that is the ones that have braids in their hair.
You know what, Annette, that's actually a great point. I was talking to one of my best friends who's also a real estate agent just this weekend, and she was saying that she wanted to get her hair braided. And she was like, I don't know if I want to do it though, because I don't know if that'll work in my workspace. I don't want people to be offended if I get my hair braided. I don't want to, she can say it to me.
Which is so what is wrong with a braid? What is wrong with braids? What is wrong with braids? There's nothing wrong. We're not violating anyone or anything. We're just wearing our hair the way we wear our hair. And it's as simple as that. Why is it you have to go and Google and see that all the hairstyles that we have are inappropriate for work?
Well, and I think, we talk a lot about, in our world, with whether you're with Keller Williams or just, in real estate, there's a lot of personal growth you do as well as business growth. And, the conversation a lot of times is, you grow into the conversations that you have around you, but it's like you haven't been able to have these conversations. And so it's like you only can grow so far because you're constantly silenced. And like, I'm thankful that you're even open to willing to share. Cause I mean, when we're off, you should read the comments that are happening. You have so much support and so many people, wanting to hear what you have to say. And I think it's an awakening. I think it's an awakening that we all really needed, but it needs to keep happening. And I think, every single company that I know, first when COVID hit, everyone sent an email out with their stance on COVID and how they can protect you. And then when, now it's Black Lives Matter and they're showing it, but then it's one thing to send an email, but then what happens next? What is the actions that happen after you send the email and you say how you feel? What change can you make? And, I know for me, like I have a 10-month-old baby at home, and I'm never going to have the conversations that Shandi, you've had to have with your son. And yet I want to have conversations with him about the different races and treating everybody equally and understanding, whichever one of you wants to take this. There was so much confusion around all lives matter and Black Lives Matter.
There's no confusion, Jill. There is no confusion.
I know I understand that. And yet many people don't. Would one of you be willing to share why Black Lives Matter? Not saying that they matter more, everyone's lives matter, and yet Black Lives Matter. And can one of you share your perspective on that?
What we're talking about is a specific problem that's happening, right? You get a repair opinion and they say the roof matters. You wouldn't say, yeah, but the house matters too. And the roof is, you wouldn't silence. Again, right now, what Black Lives Matters is saying is that over and over again, the world, the country, America is showing and demonstrating that Black lives are different. They are valued different. that we know how to de-escalate a situation and take kids to Burger King after shooting up a church. But for some reason, if you're drunk in a wedding, Wendy, you deserve to die. That's why we're focusing the conversation on specific Black lives. And I think it is actually quite arrogant for you to take a national problem and then bend it to fit your situation to, again, make you feel comfortable. Someone will say, well, oh, nobody cared about this officer that was shot. You know, what about her life? They were arrested the next day and charged with murder. Mm-hmm. That's the type of resolution and that comes when it comes to these crimes. We have a long list of people that have been murdered, and the people are still going to work, or they get suspended with pay, which, what is that? That sounds like a vacation. I've never understood that. So that's why it's specifically saying that. And I think that, you know, if you've never had to go protest for someone that looks like you or someone in your family, then maybe that's why. Yeah. You know, because the justices are different. You know, that's just my opinion on it. Yeah, you know, Shandi, you know, you guys can comment.
I agree.
I think it goes back to, and it was so, it just, gosh, I'm trying to come across without being angry because it infuriates me. It was a simple thing I saw the other day that said, like, when the Boston bombings happened and we said Boston strong, it wasn't like, okay, what about the other cities? And then when the shootings happened in Las Vegas, it wasn't like, well, what about New York? It was just, and you know what I mean? It's just the fact that, and it's also, you know what it is, Rachel? It's still to keep a Band-Aid on it, because when you take it off, it's just, everything is exposed, right? And it just makes it uncomfortable.
And I think that's the thing is, like, you nail it, right? It's when then you get uncomfortable, they're like, how can we just quiet it down? Let's go back to how things were. And it's like, no, we can't do that right now. We have to be living in this uncomfortable space in order for there to be change. Otherwise, we're just going to deal with the same thing again.
Yeah. And people, several people, I mean, there's multiple millions actually of people who just don't want to see it for what it is. Right. And so it's like, somebody can say, like, but I don't, you know, I mean, I have my Black friend and my Black neighbor and my Black mailman. And so, you know, everything's fine and all lives matter and whatever. It's a matter of,
you know, if you, you know, when what was I going to say? There's so many thoughts running around in my head. It's crazy. But when you have people in the Trump administration very clearly stating that there's no systemic racism, it's dangerous. It's very, very dangerous, because we're feeling it, and we're not only insulted, we hurt, and that's like another hurt on top of all the other hurts that we had. For the leaders in this country to say something like that, and let me tell you, the fury that you're seeing from white people, the fury that you're seeing from them is because we had a Black president for 8 years. A lot of them, okay? They just could not even swallow it. They just couldn't. They just could not. And this is just, you know, the NASCAR driver, the Black NASCAR driver, they found a noose in his store. Could you imagine that? Somebody put a noose in this guy's store. I mean, I was so mad this morning when I heard that. And so this is what happens. Every single day there's something. Every single day there's something. And so, you know, if you become an angry Black woman, then you're justified, as far as I'm concerned.
I think one of the things that have to happen is, and these calls are great, but to the audience, you have to take ownership for your education.
Yes.
I am 37 years old. I went to historically Black college. People say, well, why are there historically Black colleges? Well, if you do the history, because we weren't allowed in white colleges. That's the simplest answer. Okay. However, with that came 37 years of understanding, training, and education on what it is to be who I am today. Netflix has done a whole little block on movies that you can do. And I think it's unfortunate when people would rather be spoon-fed than to face the reality. One of my early movies that I remember when I was a child was Rosewood. And it was the last time I said I was going to watch a movie like that, because it had me so angry. I said, I had the foresight as a single digit, child, maybe 8 or 9 years old, to know I could not watch movies like this and live in a world with white people.
Wow. Yep. It's hard.
And it's a true story. It's a true story. Okay. It's not just a makeup. And that's the thing. That is the reality of, wow, am I going to stop learning my history because it's going to shape the perspective that I have? Because again, I still have to show up to work every day and navigate these spaces. Now, you may or may not choose to watch these movies that people are giving you and the books that people are reading, but that's the truth. And if you really want to see yourselves, the country, the whatever, the history for what it is, then you have to go and do the work outside of Zoom calls, because we can't cover it in an hour or 30 minutes. And then it comes out spattered, right? Because it's like, oh, and then this, and then this, and then this, because there's so many points. But I encourage you to read the books, read, The Color of Law, and find out how it has impacted real estate in America and how it's impacted the wealth of Black people. There's a quote that says, there is no culture without ownership. Well, if you've got hundreds of years of systemic repression of ownership, well, then that could be why people view their culture in this country different. And so I just encourage you to do your work. Like, watch the movies. They're not easy. It's not easy watching, any of them, but it's the truth if you choose to accept it and then move forward from there.
Also, I want to, I just learned a whole lot about Tulsa, Oklahoma. And I'm telling you, if you do nothing else, please just go look at it.
Chase, you just reminded me of something I want to talk about too, because I see that there's a lot of people who are angry about the statues that have been taken down. And I had a very deep conversation with one of my white friends, and she said, well, you can't erase history, right? And this is a friend that I went to grade school with, right? And so I was taken aback by it, right? And it's true, yes, we can erase history, right? But can you imagine, like, I know, Rachel, can you walk around in this world? I mean, there's slave owners on our money, we see it everywhere. And it would be different if there was an equal representation of history in our world, but there's not. Mm-hmm. There's not, you might find a few, Martin Luther King statues here and there, right? But what are you going to see? You're going to see Robert E. Lee, and you're going to see all these representations of our history that are hurtful to us. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so the fact that people are angry that they're being taken down, it's like, you can't do that. Why not? We're talking about equality, right? We're talking about equal.
Celebrated for what they did.
Exactly, right? There's not an equal representation of our history right now.
Well, they say that history is meant for books, statues glorify. So that's one thing. There was this thing I posted on my page, and it said, it's no accident that you learned about Helen Keller instead of W.E.B. Du Bois, that you learned about the Watts and the LA riots, but not Tulsa or Wilmington, that you learned that George Washington's dentures were made for wood rather than from the teeth of slaves, and that you learned about Black ghettos, but not Black Wall Street. You learned about the New Deal, but not redlining. You learned about Black crime, but white criminals are never lumped together and discussed on their race. You learned about state rights as the cause of the Civil War, but not that slavery was mentioned 80 times in the Articles of Secession. Privilege is having history rewritten so that you don't have to acknowledge the uncomfortable facts. And I shared an example. I'm from Houston, Texas, specifically Pearland, Texas, which is 20 minutes south of downtown Houston, where a teacher had McGraw-Hill, this is the school's books that the children learn from, had to pull all of their books because they had renamed slavery migrant workers. Now, what's a migrant worker? What does that say? That sounds like they traveled to come get a job, right? That is not what slavery is. However, this is what we mean, number one, when we talk about systemic problems. And number two, Shandi, what you're saying, well, you can't erase history. This is a prime example of how it happens every day. But again, because it's not your history, it's not important. Why would we teach a whole generation of children that slavery was an internship? That sounds crazy. And so then we come across and people are 67 years old and they're like, I had no idea this was happening. Well, of course not, because it's uncomfortable.
Right.
So this is why this is, and Rachel, I think a couple years ago, I think I started telling you like I wasn't going to accept a bunch of friends. I stopped. I was like, I don't need 5,000 friends. Like I only add people that I know. And this is why. It was because my news feed was being flooded with foolish comments or foolish posts. And I get to choose what I allow in my world.
100%.
And so what's happening is that I think there is an awakening and people are saying, we're taking it back. We've been quiet, we've been passive, and we still get murdered. And again, this is why it goes back to Black Lives Matter, because we've done what you've asked us to do, and you still kill us. Mm-hmm. You still keep us from being promoted. You still only hire one of us to where we're responsible for bringing everybody else with us. Shandi, if you're luxury, top luxury agent where you are, and nobody else looks at you, I mean, we know that megas attract megas, right? Teams attract teams.
Totally.
Why don't we think talent attracts talent and people want to see themselves succeeding at a high level? So there are a lot of articles that you can find, they're everywhere. They're literally everywhere that you can support everything you're saying.
And Rachel, you're a very sharing person. You share everything. Okay? So you share everything. So for you to put yourself out there, I really, really commend you. And I want to say that before we finish. But there are other people that are going to try to cut the legs out from under you.
I know.
Okay? They are going to, and trust me, they're not going to try just one time. If you insist and you persist, they're going to keep coming at you. And that's how it feels to be Black.
This is like the least I can do. Like this is nothing compared to what you guys are experiencing, and you've experienced your entire lives. And
yep.
I don't know what to do. This is the start, right? Like, and to Chase's point, like I am learning that I've been part of the problem too, because I didn't read the books. I didn't watch the movies because it was like too hard. And it doesn't matter if it's hard. Like your whole life has been hard, so it's like we have to get uncomfortable. And like I always talk about, get uncomfortable with being, get comfortable with being uncomfortable, but it's this shiny thing. I don't think that I truly realized how important that saying is until now, and it's like,
I tell my husband, I'm not watching any shows. I'm not watching any TV. I'm not watching any movies that don't have Black people in it. I'm sorry. He thinks I'm crazy, but I'm just not. If there's no Black people in it, why am I watching? Mm-hmm. What am I watching? Mm-hmm. And I never watched the movies as a kid. My first movie was The Sound of Music, and there was not even a maid in there that was Black. And I said, no way, I'm not doing this anymore. I don't even know why I made that decision, but I just made that decision a long, long time ago in my life. And I want to see my people. I want to see shows with my people in it. I love all the direction that the movie industry is going in, and I hope that they keep it up, and things get equal with Black people and white people, because I'm telling you, it's only going to make everything better.
Yeah,
they don't know that it's going to make everything better, but it will.
Rachel, did you have anybody that had questions at all?
There's some really beautiful comments. I'm not having I haven't had questions yet. I'm just having people say some really beautiful things. I apologize, I might not say your name correctly. Harjas said, I read on a poster and it really stayed with me, Black Lives Matter. Matter is the least. Black lives are needed, Black lives are valued, and Black lives are loved.
Yeah.
Yep.
Chase was talking about, doing your homework and doing your research. And, I don't know who's watching and who's not, but if you have the opportunity to, I don't know if you own a company, if you own a business, or if you have any kind of influence, what really needs to happen is there needs to be more representation. We don't have a seat at the table in most of these places. Yeah. unfortunate. It's really unfortunate. So for anybody that has the power to make that change, and you have more than you think, that's something else that's going to help. And we need that.
And that's the measurable that I've suggested, because I do agree it's emotional, and there's a lot of like what I say is great, but they're distractions, right? Changing syrup, changing rice.
Right.
I don't eat the syrup or the rice anyway. But what you can do is, my specific question is, what are you doing to increase the average net worth for Black people in your city? Because that's the wealth gap. There's a show on Netflix. It's called Explained. It's their episode, 2nd season, called The Wealth Gap. And you can see how strategically Blacks have been targeted when it comes to building wealth. And so what you can do, a measurable, is number one, investigate your reality. What does your market center look like? And I'm just saying market center because, it's a real estate call. This is the area that I occupy.
Yeah.
What does your board look like? The trainings that you go to. If you're inviting people to FSO, which is franchise systems owner, whatever it is, operations, right, on how to become an owner, who do you bring with you? Nobody's asking for a handout. They're asking for an invitation to the conversation. As an ally, you have that power. If you know that you're in a room that others are not, then when you're sitting at that table, use your voice to say, this person would be valued in this conversation. Yeah. This person would be valued on this board. This person would be valued on the executive leadership team, right? It's not a handout, because I guarantee you, like everyone has said on this call, they're demonstrating themselves anyway. They're found when it comes to free opportunities to volunteer, and you're just such a great giving person. Reward that.
Right.
Reward that with an opportunity to create the same wealth that every other family has been able to create. And that's what I would challenge you. If you are a leader on this call, stop being silent and whispering in the back rooms on why XYZ person would be a better fit because, well, you don't think they would relate to the town when it comes to whatever makes you sleep at night.
Yeah.
But these are the things that, like Shandi said, it should be, visibility matters.
Yeah.
It matters. And what you see it matters down to the doll that your child plays with.
We talked about that on our prep.
Yeah.
We talked about that because the Black Barbie, right? She was 1980. I'm born in 84, 4 years before I was born. It's like that recent. That's the thing that's crazy is like that recently they decided, okay, now we can make it. But the more important thing is, are my kids going to buy that doll? Right. It's not like, I think it's so important. There's a book I posted the other day and it's called Love Every, and every other page, it's like it's a Black child and a white child. It's an Asian child. It's like, we've got to start it. Like the first thing I felt like I could do is like, it starts at home, right? Like it has to start with us in our home. And then you're molding these children to teach them what is right, what to believe, how to treat people. So it has to start at home. And then what do you do from there?
It's personal. You have to personally check yourself every single day. You have to ask yourself, talk to yourself, ask yourself the hard questions and decide, look, when I go out tomorrow, if I see a 20-year-old kid with a hoodie on and or something, that there's no need to be scared. There are people that walk out their door and see kids and just so their parents, their brains start going in, and you have to check yourself.
Yeah. This
kid did not do me anything.
Yeah.
He's minding his own business. Why am I scared? What am I scared of?
Yeah.
This is all inside of you. So it has to be personal. Everyone has to have that determination of listen, I'm going to really check myself.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that we talked about after when this started in the Young Professionals Division was one of the first to lead a call. And I remember talking to the YP manager, like we were so nervous. We were like, oh my gosh, what are we going to say? Like, what if this backfires? What if this blows up? What if we're like breaking rank and all these things, right? And the call was so well received. It was crazy. It was like, what were we afraid of? So then, yeah, like you said, you have to ask yourself, why am I so scared? Who taught me to be fearful? Where did that come from? Why am I so afraid to have a conversation, to have a fierce conversation about reality? However, for everybody that's, kind of experiencing backlash, whatever's going on in your feed, because I know one thing I wanted to point out is that you had to be careful of like spiritual silencing, which is when people are like, we're all God's children. Let's just all love one another. Again, that's silencing. I'm telling you a problem. You're saying, but God loves everybody. You're not helping. You're telling me to shut up. But in the Bible, since we like to use God, he says, so because you are lukewarm, neither hot nor cold, I'm about to spit you out my mouth. That's what God says. God says, because you don't take a position, I'm about to spit you out my mouth. So you can be rejected by your friends or you could be rejected by God. Either way, everybody's asking you to decide. And whatever you decide, that's fine, because then we have the information to move forward. I would rather you show me who you are, right? You would rather let a seller know, let you know up front, I'm not going to agree to anything that you say.
Right.
And you can say, based on these terms and conditions, it's not good for us to go in business together. It's the same way with the people in your world. Wow, you don't think racism is a problem? Based on those terms and conditions, it doesn't make sense for us to move forward together. So pick a position, good, bad, or indifferent. Own it.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't think Black Lives Matter, that's fine. You don't have to. Nobody's forcing you to. Speak your truth, and then you own those results.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I've lost, Rachel, as you have. I've lost a lot of friends the same. People who I went to school with. We went to grade school with.
Yeah,
you have to be comfortable letting those relationships go, because if you're not concerned about the plight of what's happening right now, if you're not concerned and you're not willing to open up and have a conversation and see, okay, that's okay. We just have to. The friendship is over at that point, and that's all right. As hurtful as it is. I've shed many tears because it's mind blowing, but it is what it is at this point.
I find myself, it's like I feel guilty that I didn't think this way before, but I was driving to a listing appointment and I saw like 3 kids on the side of the road, and one was like a Black kid and he had, dreadlocks, and one was, like a white, like a younger white girl. And I thought to myself, like, I wonder what he's going through. I wonder what's going through his mind. Like, and I'm like, it sounds so, I'm like, I want to hug him? I was like, it's just the weird, but it's like, I think that the thing that, at least I know I've had a couple conversations with my white friends, is like, okay, so you can read the books, you can watch the movies, you can put a hashtag on social media, but then what next? Mm-hmm. So what do you say to those people? What next? I mean, to me, this has to be the start of the conversation. There's so much more that needs to happen, but what specifically do you feel can happen? I mean, awareness is key, right? I mean, I wrote down, Chase, you said, investigate your reality, right? What happens next?
Well, I don't think
everybody can. I think everyone.
So, what I want to say, what happens next is, as I said before, you really have to as you walk out your door in the morning, everybody's thinking has changed. Everybody's feelings have changed. Okay. And so you have to check yourself. All right. You have to be open. You have to be willing, and you have to be open, and you have to treat people the way you want to be treated. It's very simple for me. That is.
I'd say don't save the situation, change the situation. Nobody wants you to come hug them. Nobody wants, because again, everybody's already weird and nervous. But change that conversation, right? That Black-white dynamic, absolutely. That's a scary situation for everyone, because again, the power of your voice as a white woman can flip his reality in an instant. The minute that he does something that she doesn't like, she can go home and tell her daddy and say, well, everything can go so far left. And we've seen these in movies. They talk about people's careers being, whether it's, false rape or whatever, right? Consensual sex that's now being perceived as rape, right? But you have the power to change that conversation. So again, don't save it, change it, Tell your children, check your reality. I think at the end of the day is check the power of your words. Your words carry weight. Amy Cooper in New York, if that would have went any other way, if he wouldn't have left early, the police would have came out with multiple cars looking for a black man attacking a white woman. That's the power of your words and how foolish she looked on TV. And that happens all the time. So check your reality, check your words, and you start intentionally using your voice to change what it is that you see. You have more power in your tribe than either of us are going to have, right? And be willing to walk away.
Exposure is very important. Like what you said, Rachel, are you exposing your child to other races? Are you exposing, the people watching, are you exposing yourself to other, atmospheres and situations? And, are you putting yourself in spaces? Have you ever gone to a black restaurant? Have you ever had, have you gone to a black event? Have you had black people over? Have you, are your white children playing with black children and Asian children and whatever? You know what I mean? So exposure. It's hard when you just live in a bubble in your own little space and you never expose yourself to other things.
Mm-hmm. I had that conversation this morning with one of my friends because she's telling me the problems she's having, not having a job and having to pay her mortgage and the things that they want to tie you up in as a black person. When the governor is saying, the banks and the people with the mortgage loans, they're going to do this for you and they're going to do that for you. But no, if you're black, they're not going to do it for you. They're not. And so I said to her, don't worry about it. You will get guidance and we will help you to get through this. Mm-hmm. One of the the job that I got fired from, my six-figure job, trust me, it was a simple thing. They had a survey, right? They did a survey and they said that nobody will be penalized for anything they said in the survey. And I was fired 3 weeks later.
Oh, man.
Because I let loose in the survey. I gave it to them. Look, this is what I feel. This is what I think. And I was fired 3 weeks later. Mm-hmm. Even though they said that you will not be penalized for saying anything.
Okay, so I have a question. This is going to make people uncomfortable, but there's a lot of response to this question, and it's been requested that I ask it to you. I am completely sympathetic with these ladies and acknowledge the bias in this country. If we look at the core family unit of the Black community, over 70% of Black families are without a father figure in the home. Over 90% of Black men are killed by Black men. I'm curious of their perspective on these two statistics. And then people are asking her to state her where the stats came from. But
yeah, that's a great way to change the subject, right? And make it fit your own narrative, whoever wrote that. So let's address that. And then number two, why don't you research the history for why so many Black fathers are not in homes, into how institutionally, systematically that women couldn't get assistance, whether it was from the government or not, if the father was present. So again, this goes back to history, and that's a great clickbait point. Again, people kill people they know. So I'm pretty sure 90% of white people kill white people, right? Because again, it's some kind of connection between the two. But I would hate to take the conversation from what we're saying. And to me, that is a clear example of how somebody takes something and dismisses everything we've talked about on this call to say, but what about Black fathers and what about crime? And so I don't know, anybody else can address that. But yeah, that's a great way to distract.
Yes, the statistics show that there's a reason why the situation is. We don't have to argue about it. We don't have to talk about it. They just have to go look at the stats. Go ahead, Rachel.
Yeah. Erica said a way to embrace. I said, what happens next, right? Like, what can we do as different races to embrace people of color? She said, invite us first to parties. Invite and open up your subject and open up to our subject changes and conversations. Smile, embrace us, bring us in too. Let us join the clubs and make a point and make appointments priority to us. Arrange your schedule and go the extra mile to close a bridge. Stand up for the Black person complaining he was called an N-word in the store. For once, I would like a Black or a white person to give me special treatment in the service industry. We can feel it. We know when someone is rooting for us.
If you walk in a store and you see that the clerk is following a Black person, ask them why they're doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Ask them. Don't be scared. Just ask them. As you as a white person, why are you following this Black girl? Did she steal anything? No. Why are you following her? Just own up to it. It happens all the time. This is what I keep saying. Just as you go out your door every day, just check yourself. Because it's like totally different. Go ahead, Rachel.
Like in your friend conversations, like if someone makes a racist joke and before you it'd be uncomfortable to say, hey, that's not funny. Now we have to say, hey, that's not funny. I'm not okay with that. If you're going to hang with me, you don't get to talk like that anymore. And is it uncomfortable to say that? Yes. But otherwise that continues into the next conversation. And like they're little changes, right? But no big change happens overnight. It's going to be those small, consistent changes. That's just like the compound effect. Like, and I know we said we'd only take an hour of your time. So I wanted to thank you all so much for having this. The comments have been really powerful. People are asking if they can share this. Absolutely. I will upload this as long as I have the green light from you ladies. I will upload this to YouTube so it can be shared readily. I know it's kind of hard to share through Facebook pages. But I'm thankful that all of you are here, and I applaud you for using your voice, and I want to encourage you to keep doing it. And anything that I can do in any way, I'm so open to it. And I mean, thank you. Really, really powerful. And Annette, we want to wish you a happy 64th birthday, girl.
Birthday.
Thank you, Rachel. Thank you, Shandi.
Thank you,
ladies, so much. We appreciate it. Ladies, if they want to connect with you, can you share how they can find you, where they can find you, and how they can connect?
Your realtor, Annette.
Say it again.
Your realtor, Annette.
Is that on Facebook, Instagram? Is that an email?
Yes, Facebook and Instagram.
Cool. Shandi, how about for you?
I think, am I tagged on your page there?
You are, but it'll be shared in different platforms.
Oh, I'm not good at this part. I don't know. Facebook.
Her name is Shandi Hudson. S-H-A-N-D-I. You can find her on Instagram and Facebook. I got you. Okay, Chase, how about you?
Facebook, I'm Chase Sloan. Instagram, I'm at the Chasing Real Estate Group, and LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube, everything else is pretty much the same. So type in Chase.
I can just say your branding is on point behind you.
I'm like,
I love it. I know.
Shout out to KW Designs for my background, Money Prep for my logo.
I love it.
With like nice branding.
Yeah, I appreciate you, Money. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, ladies, thank you so much. We appreciate your time and we value you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Well, that was powerful. I had to actually record this outro a little bit later because I was so moved by the conversation that we had, and I just kind of needed to like breathe it in and really take in the conversations that we had. So thank you so much to everyone who took their time to just listen and come here again with an open mind and an open heart. And I appreciate you, and I'm very thankful that you were willing to listen and just willing to hear someone's views and someone else's story, because together we really can make a difference. So you know where to follow these ladies. If you have any questions or you have any thoughts on the matter, I'd love to hear them. And just remember, be nice and be considerate, because everyone's going through something. All right. Take care.